What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what's really affecting it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So right now, Lucid is up 1.78%. You do see it really wanting to break out. Right now, there's a lot of external fears that's kind of rushing through the broader market that's causing a lot of stocks to pull back. So I want to talk about what that is and whether it's going to affect Lucid or not. As of today, no actual news from the company itself, no SEC filings, so merely just piggybacking off of the broader market. As well, just to give you a quick overview, so the market's been open almost 1 hour and 4 million shares been traded, so very low volume for today. And today there's been only one transaction on the secondary market above $100,000. It was for 520, so institution did sell. You can tell that based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price. So that's what prompted the sell-off for the low of 337. But when it comes down to this, I'll give you guys a quick overview because it's been a good couple days since I've really brought this up. So this is all the top questions posed by retail to management for their upcoming Q2 earnings based on top voted. So Maureen did say, is it true that Nissan has invested with Lucid? So in my opinion, I think this is a very simple question for Peter to kind of answer, because if Nissan did truly invest in Lucid, there would be a 13G for him, and there wasn't. So I think all in all, that not necessarily, I don't know why there's 745 votes, 729,000 shares represented. So once again, not necessarily the best. Paul does ask, can you provide more information on what you're doing to cut costs? For example, Rivian recently announced a 35% reduction in costs and expect to have positive gross margin in Q4. Can you share obviously your path to positive margins? So this one, I think, Peter will easily just say that they do a lot of things in-house to cut expenses, that they laid off, or that they did lay off some employees several quarters back. So that most likely is what they'll kind of talk on. And then if he does kind of answer this part right here, their path to positive margins, I can't clearly speak today, he's going to bring up what he did during the actual recent conferences, and that is that mid-size SUV. So that's going to be the path to kind of positive margins, profitability. So I think in reality, this is a good question, just not for this quarter, possibly 2 or 3 more quarters down the line, then maybe re-ask this question. But does Lucid have any plans to introduce a more affordable EV model to broaden its market reach and compete in the mass market segment? So this is where they'll bring up that mid-size SUV. So not necessarily the best question. So are there rumors about Hyundai's interest in purchasing Lucid true? So I think when it comes down to that question, similar to how Peter has answered the whole Apple scenario in the past, he's just going to say that they can't comment on that. So that won't be something to kind of keep in mind. And my shares have lost 91% of their value since I bought them. What are you doing about it? So that one is pretty simple. Clearly this individual hasn't really paid attention to the last couple of earnings because that has already been brought up. This one is very good question, and probably will be the final one, because these questions right here are very, very simple, I think. So I think they will kind of ask all of them up to this point, and Peter will be able to talk all about tech. So that, I think that is fairly good stuff. Right now, though, moving on to some data points, shorts are increasing 539,000 shares, 26.9% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 238.43 million shares overall are being shorted, utilization 91.48, and then short score 90.94. So a lot of people are still chirping on how Lucid's upcoming earnings could prompt a squeeze, so that'll be an interesting earnings just to see if that does come to fruition or not. And I think Lucid would really have to give us a very good catalyst in order to prompt a squeeze. So kind of just keep that in mind. But as of late, there's been a lot of different fears. So a lot of companies unveiling their earnings this week. So that is a certain level of fear. You also have Powell on Wednesday. And then you have these two things that's kind of looming over the broader market. So you have the national debt hitting 35 trillion. So it does show interest payments are just already exceeding, just based on interest payments, the national defense spending. So I think in reality, something does need to change. Yeah, so that's going to be a very unique circumstance. I believe that is, they don't have to address that up until January, possibly raise the ceiling once again. So that's going to be something that people pay attention to. And then this right here. So US banks are now preparing for millions to default. And there was an article that came out roughly 2 weeks ago on how there's more bankruptcies just in June. It was, I guess, analyzing June's data than there was in the last decade. So clearly there's an underlying tone that there's fear in the market. So this is one thing that's really affecting the broader, a lot of growth stocks and whatever else. So let me know your thoughts on all of that. Moving on to options. Again, the market just opened 1 hour ago, so you don't have all that much in data, but 190,000 in calls, 91,000 in puts. 49% of all the options being done are optimistic and bullish. And of the call options, you do see oddly a consensus for it to be around 550 by the end of next week. And then for the upcoming earnings, so that is August the 9th, encumbering that, you don't really see much activity. You see the week prior getting activity, which is kind of weird. But yeah, I've already done a dedicated video. I think my last one I put over the weekend is all about options, buying, selling calls, puts, just very basic stuff. So recommend you guys kind of paying attention to that. And if you guys do have any questions about any of that, let me know. I can definitely address that. But I think options can be very profitable regardless if you are bullish or bearish. So just keep that in mind. Of the puts that are being purchased, you do see a consensus for it to be sub $3. So kind of there's a little bit more downside anticipated, or kind of evenly divided, if that makes sense. But right now with it at $3.42, it is flirting with this pivot point right now. So 326 will be a strong support aside from this right here. And then $3.57 will be the next strong resistance. So right now it's just flirting with the pivot point right here. Hasn't touched this S1 or R1. So we'll just have to wait and see whether the market wants to keep it above or below. But like I said, there's a lot of fear. A lot of my growth stocks I'm watching are in the red today. So I think just a lot of fear might actually bring it down into this S1 to the pivot. So let me know your thoughts on that. On the actual chart itself, so it is higher percentile of the Bollinger Band. Stochastic, you do see it at 29, so arguably oversold. So again, whether it be because of upcoming earnings or Lucid just voluntarily puts out more information, like a good catalyst, you could see a rush of value investors getting into Lucid. So again, that could be a fairly positive thing. At the same time, looking at the momentum indicator, you do see number of retail investors getting in. So even though institutions aren't really buying Lucid up today, you do see some actual retail buying. So I think that's kind of a good thing. Let me know your thoughts on that. And if you have been buying today, give yourself a shout out. When it comes down to Lucid's upcoming earnings, do you think it is going to be relatively positive? There hasn't been any changes for the estimates. So still negative 29 cents for the earnings per share, 188.13 million for the revenue, and 2 positive and 4 negative revisions over the last 90 days from analysts. So yeah, I think right now Lucid is kind of just piggybacking off of the broader market. EV sector again is doing relatively good today. So what's your thoughts? With all that, don't forget to take advantage of this promo as well. Link in the description below and also the comments. Simply sign up for a new account, throw $100 at it, and they give you 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.